Hello people, here we are, first Suffragette National Day. We're here at the Kingston Mill Locks where the Shafia girls 8 years ago were murdered. They were actually, I'm going to turn this around. You can see where we're at. This is the locks. This is where the car was plunged. It was actually hanging off of this concrete embankment here, and it was pushed by another car. It came down from here and through to here, and that's where the girls were found dead, and their brother, mother, and father were charged about a month later. So we're here today and we're protesting M103, and you can see our posters here. We've got Kirsten French, Leslie Mahaffey, there's Rona, and Sahar Shafia. She is 17, right there again. Honor killing victim. You can see the acid face on this woman, and we're also going to speak about the missing Indigenous women. And this is Aska Pervez, who was killed by her father, strangled actually, for not wearing her hijab. Okay, so I'm going to pass this phone. Here we have our lovely team of patriots and suffragettes, beautiful people who have taken time out of their busy lives to come and commemorate and honor these girls' lives and all of the victims of violence. So I'm going to pass this off. I don't know if I'm going to send it, give it to Batman, but somebody, if they could turn that around so I don't have to hold it, that I can still hold my my notes here. And did you flip that there?
You're ready.
Great. Okay, so we come here together one day before our 150th anniversary, Canada Day, to remember and give honor to the lives of 3 young sisters and their stepmother, whose lives were taken violently and senselessly. Innocent girls that were killed, and their pleas for help quelled by their father, brother, and unimaginably their own mother, complicit in their premeditated, cold-blooded murder. 8 years ago, this very day, June 30th, 2009, they were killed here. Zainab, 19, Sahar, 17, and little Geeti, only 13 years old, along with the first wife in the polygamous marriage, Rona, just 50 years old herself. Mohammed Shafia, the father, the main misogynist perpetrator in this honor, or rather ego killing, sits now in a Canadian prison along with the 2 others still unrepentant. The vehicle they were driving was found, as I mentioned, right at this very spot, submersed in water, having been pushed by another vehicle into the cold lake. They were... They were killed for being female and for becoming too westernized. And contrary to Canadian laws under Sharia, this is permissible under misogynist Sharia law. Often in Afghanistan, where the family originated, perpetrators of these kinds of crimes against women and girls are celebrated for restoring their family's honor. Even an innocent greeting or telephone call between a male and a female, boy and girl, can result in a breach of Sharia law. In spite of Zainab's, the 19-year-old girl's, pleas to authorities that her well-being was in danger, she was ignored, for her concerns falling on deaf ears. The lack of response and intervention, we can see, sadly, proved deadly. We also come here today to remember all victims of violence, both male and female, young and old, rich and poor. Violence does not discriminate, but we take special recognition of these deaths and other victims of sexual, physical violence, particularly when it comes from a culture where violence towards women and children is permissible. Just Google domestic violence in Islam, where throughout the Middle East and Pakistan, daily, women and children suffer under physical and sexual violence. You should also watch the documentary, Pakistan's Hidden Shame, a documentary released a year ago, showcasing politicians, professionals, and aid workers discussing the incidences of homeless boys, as many as 2 million in Peshawar, northern Pakistan, who suffer from sexual exploitation on a daily basis. The release of this documentary, overlapping the alarming revelations of the report of Rotterdam. I don't know if you are all familiar with Rotterdam, but this was a particularly sickening case where the abuse and sexual trafficking of 1,400 girls went on over a 16-year period. And these girls were predominantly groomed by Middle Eastern men. The scale and the graphic nature, it is said, raised the issue about confronting the cultural and religious aspects of the abuse that prompted authorities to turn a blind eye, and I might add, close their ears. Girls as young as 11 were plied with drugs and alcohol by mainly men of Pakistani heritage before being trafficked across North England and gang raped. They who tried to speak out were threatened with guns and made to watch brutal gang rapes. One girl was doused with gasoline and threatened to be lit on fire. The impact of sexual abuse on children is horrific, and the effects lifelong and mentally and emotionally crippling. Such as Martin Cruz, 32, who committed suicide 3 days after Gordon Stuckless, the predator at Maple Leaf Gardens, who was charged with 100 crimes, pled guilty and received only 2 years less a day. Disgusting. 100 people's lives, and they say there were hundreds more in all probability. But he was convicted. He pled guilty to 100 charges against 24 children. And imagine, what is the weight, what is the value of a child that a man who impacts children's lives in such an adverse way gets 2 years less a day? Our laws need to change. They had been running a sex ring, child sex ring, for over 2 decades. And Martin Cruz, the brave young man, 32 years old, he came forward. He was going to remain silent, but he decided to speak out to help other people. Just like we stand here today to help others and bring awareness, because we have a voice and we need to be a voice for the voiceless. So Martin spoke out, and soon many of the others victims, as a result of his bravery, came forward. It enabled them to break their find their inner strength and to break through the bondage of shame and silence. Although Stuckless was given a light sentence for abusing 24 children, even though 60 had come forward, Martin, it was the one who paid the ultimate price for the abuse. He stated in his victim statement that he was full of anger, rage, guilt, shame, loneliness, terror, and self-hatred. And only 3 days after Stuckless's light sentence, Cruz jumped from the Bloor Viaduct to his death. Years of abuse, suffering, in silence, along with him being denied justice, had taken its toll. Abuse thrives in silence and can have deadly toll on its victims, as was the case of Emmanuel Jacks. We all remember the shoeshine boy. Just 12 years old, he was lured in, a poor boy of Portuguese parents, lured in to move camera equipment for $35. And that's all his life was worth to those pigs, because he was restrained and sexually assaulted over a 12-hour period. 12-year-old boy, and then they drowned him in a sink. Another young life snuffed out and silenced forever.
Evil.
It is. We're looking at evil. Yeah. And what about the mother who decided she didn't wish to wear her burqa any longer and was choked with a shower curtain while her 3-year-old was left on his own for hours with his dead mother's body? No one could hear his cry for help, or his mother's. He was killed by the father, who left the young boy roaming in the apartment with his dead mother's body for hours. And here's the thing, predators always always try to silence their victims, either by shame, slander, or intimidation, or all. A predator is an oppressor by nature, taking away the freedom of the weaker, more vulnerable, or the groomed. Political correctness is a form of mental abuse. Gaslighting, a common term in the mental health industry, where a predator attempts to normalize their behavior and make the victim feel as though their concerns are unjust or irrational. This is exactly what Stuckless did. He'd take the kids everywhere. He was an absolute pervert pig, and he would, this is completely normal, he would tell to the kids, but don't tell anybody, and then we get you tickets to the games here. So he played off these children and their naivety. And when a victim bravely comes forward to confront their abusers, they must be listened to and taken seriously, because silencing accusers enables abusers and allows the cycle of abuse to continue and go unchallenged. We must leave no stone unturned when it comes to protecting innocence. We must encourage the abused to step forward while their voice can still be heard. And we as a society must be a voice for the vulnerable and the voiceless, like the Shafias, the Martins, the Emmanuels, the Rotherham girls, and the Pakistani boys, and break the chains of silence and expose cultural practices and individuals so the innocent can live lives free from oppression and abuse. This is what being Canadian is all about.
There you go.
Right?
Absolutely.
We protect the vulnerable. We protect the innocent. 150 years of it, and still we will go strong and prevail. We are our principles and values. And we are seen in many parts of the world as a place of refuge from oppression and abuse. These girls came to this country for a new life. These families come for a new life, not to bring this old world misogynist culture with them. And look where this ended for these girls and others like them. As such, we must look closely and condemn cultures of misogyny that threaten women and girls' safety and well-being. Women of every race, culture, ethnicity, religion, and color. Violence has no race. Often, as with the Rotherham girls, victims are blackmailed, such as the case of Amanda Todd, who Aidan Cobain, in spite being referred to as a Dutchman, is the son of Turkish parents living in the Netherlands who cyberstalked Amanda and intimidated her into taking nude pictures and posting them online. He had another 10 Canadian victims and 100 victims globally. Yet we are still awaiting his extradition years later to face trial here. The silence is deafening and unjust. Justice delayed is justice denied. And what of Canada's Aboriginal Native women? Why is there such a high homicide rate in this community? 4.5 times higher than the average of Canadian women. Amnesty International did a report quite some time ago now, 13 years, in 2004, suggesting that the leading cause was due to racism and misogynistic violence. So why has this avenue not been explored and followed up on?
Why not?
And scientific evidence correlated. You know, they can send men to the moon. They're talking, and now they can put take two ovaries and make babies, you know, out of nothing. Yeah, right. They got all this hundreds of millions of dollars in scientific equipment, and they can't correlate facts with one another. What is this? It's insanity. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, Marxism doesn't want to know. So, what of these women? They did this scientific study. Why the hush? Why the shh? Shh. Don't tell anyone. This is dysfunctional. Society needs to take out the earplugs and turn up the volume, as violence towards women, serial rape, molestation, and sex trafficking are on the rise. We cannot afford